Bette Davis finally breaks silence on Humphrey Bogart. Bette Davis was born Ruth Elizabeth Davis on April 5, 1908, in Lowell, Massachusetts. She would grow into an actress whose intensity, intelligence, and uncompromising spirit permanently reshaped what it meant to be a woman on screen. At a time when Hollywood preferred beauty over depth and compliance over individuality, Davis challenged every expectation placed upon her and won. Raised primarily by her mother after her parents' divorce, Davis developed an early sense of independence and resilience. She was drawn to performance at a young age, inspired after seeing actress Peg Entwistle on stage. Determined to pursue acting professionally, Davis enrolled at the John Murray Anderson School of Theater in New York, where she honed her craft and absorbed the discipline of serious performance. Even in her earliest training, it was clear she possessed something uncommon, not traditional glamour, but emotional force and an unflinching willingness to expose vulnerability. Davis arrived in Hollywood in the early 1930s and signed with Warner Brothers, where her early years were marked by frustration and typecasting. Studio executives initially doubted her appeal, labeling her unattractive by industry standards. Yet Davis refused to be dismissed. Her breakthrough came with Human Bondage, 1934, a role she fought to play against studio resistance. Her portrayal of the cruel, manipulative waitress Mildred Rogers shocked audiences and critics alike, earning her widespread acclaim and her first Academy Award nomination. Though she did not win that year, the performance established her as a serious dramatic force. From that moment on, Bette Davis dominated the screen throughout the 1930s and 1940s. She won her first Academy Award for Dangerous, 1935, and a second for Jezebel, 1938, solidifying her status as one of Hollywood's elite performers. What set Davis apart was her refusal to soften her characters. She embraced complexity, often portraying women who were ambitious, abrasive, morally conflicted, or emotionally raw, qualities rarely celebrated in female roles at the time. Her performances were marked by piercing eyes, razor-sharp diction, and a fearless emotional intensity that made even silence feel powerful. Davis was also a pioneer behind the scenes. Frustrated by the poor quality of roles offered to her, she famously sued Warner Brothers in 1936 in an attempt to gain creative control over her career. Though she lost the case, the lawsuit was revolutionary, signaling the beginning of actors pushing back against the restrictive studio system. Her defiance earned her a reputation as difficult, but it also paved the way for greater artistic freedom for future performers. The 1940s brought some of Davis's most iconic work, including The Letter, 1940, Now, Voyager, 1942, and Mr. Skeffington, 1944. These performances showcased her extraordinary range, from brittle cynicism to aching romantic vulnerability. In Now, Voyager, Davis transformed before audiences' eyes, both physically and emotionally, delivering one of cinema's most enduring portrayals of self-discovery and quiet empowerment. As Hollywood evolved and roles for aging actresses diminished, Davis once again refused to fade into obscurity. In the 1960s, she staged one of the most remarkable comebacks in film history with Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? 1962. Her grotesque, haunting performance as the child star turned monster Baby Jane Hudson introduced her to a new generation and reaffirmed her fearlessness as an artist. Rather than retreat from aging, Davis confronted it head-on, turning society's discomfort with older women into unforgettable art. During the 1980s, she experienced a remarkable creative resurgence, immersing herself in a wide range of television projects and feature films that reaffirmed her enduring talent and screen presence. At a time when many performers of her generation were quietly fading from the spotlight, she instead embraced complex, mature roles that showcased her emotional depth, discipline, and unmistakable gravitas. Each appearance carried the weight of experience, allowing her to bring nuance and quiet authority to characters shaped by time, memory, and resilience. One of the most celebrated highlights of this period was The Whales of August, 1987, a film that would come to be regarded as a poignant late-career triumph. Set against the serene yet haunting backdrop of the Maine coast, the film offered a meditation on aging, sisterhood, and the passage of time. Her performance was widely praised for its restraint and emotional authenticity, proving that true cinematic power does not rely on spectacle but on subtlety and truth. Critics lauded the film as a dignified, deeply moving work, and her contribution was seen as central to its success. Throughout her career, Davis appeared in over 100 films and received a record 10 Academy Award nominations. Yet her influence extends far beyond awards. She redefined stardom by proving that talent, intelligence, and conviction could outweigh conventional beauty. She made it possible for women to be powerful, unpleasant, brilliant, and human on screen all at once. Her personal life, marked by turbulent marriages and professional battles, mirrored the intensity of her work. Davis was never apologetic about her ambition or her sharp tongue. She famously declared, "Old age ain't no place for sissies," a sentiment that perfectly captured her approach to life and career. Even in her later years, as health challenges mounted, her spirit remained undiminished. Bette Davis's personal life was as dramatic, turbulent, and emotionally charged as the unforgettable characters she brought to the screen. Behind the steely gaze, razor-sharp wit, and towering Hollywood legacy was a woman who searched relentlessly for love, only to encounter heartbreak time and again. Over the course of her life, Davis married 4 times, and each marriage reflected the intense passions, vulnerabilities, and contradictions that defined her off-screen world. Her first marriage came early in 1932 when she wed Harmon Nelson, a struggling musician whom she had met before her career reached its meteoric heights. At the time, Davis was a rising star, fiercely ambitious, and wholly devoted to her craft. Nelson, however, remained on the margins of success, and as Davis's fame and power grew, the imbalance between them became impossible to ignore. Hollywood rewarded her with acclaim and authority, while Nelson wrestled with professional frustration and wounded pride. The strain of her relentless drive, combined with his inability to match her success, cast a long shadow over their marriage. What began with optimism and affection eventually dissolved into resentment and emotional distance, and the couple divorced in 1938, marking the end of Davis's first attempt at marital happiness. In 1940, Davis sought a quieter, more grounded life when she married Arthur Farnsworth, a New England innkeeper who stood far removed from the glitter and competitiveness of Hollywood. With Farnsworth, she seemed to hope for stability and emotional refuge, a partnership untouched by professional rivalry. Tragically, that hope was cruelly cut short. Farnsworth suffered a devastating head injury, and after lingering in critical condition, he died on August 25, 1943, just 2 days later. His sudden death was a profound shock to Davis, leaving her grieving not only the man she loved but also the peaceful future she had briefly imagined. 2 years later, in 1945, Davis married William Grant Sherry, a businessman whose charm initially drew her in. Together, they welcomed a daughter, Barbara Davis Hyman, a role that Davis embraced with fierce protectiveness and high expectations. Yet the marriage quickly unraveled under the weight of clashing personalities, financial disputes, and emotional volatility. By 1950, the relationship had collapsed, ending in divorce. The aftermath proved even more painful. Over time, Davis's relationship with her daughter deteriorated badly, marked by bitterness, estrangement, and public controversy. In one of the most tragic chapters of her life, Davis ultimately disinherited Barbara, a decision that underscored the deep fractures within her private world. That same year, 1950, Davis married for the 4th and final time, choosing fellow actor Gary Merrill, whom she had worked with and admired professionally. Their shared understanding of the acting life initially created a sense of partnership and mutual respect. Together they formed a blended family, raising Barbara and adopting 2 additional children, Margot and Michael. For a time, it appeared that Davis had finally found a balance between career, marriage, and motherhood. But the pressures of fame, clashing temperaments, and personal struggles once again took their toll. After a decade marked by both affection and conflict, the marriage ended in divorce in 1960. For decades, the relationship between Bette Davis and Humphrey Bogart remained one of classic Hollywood's most intriguing unanswered questions. Both were towering figures of the Golden Age, icons defined by grit, intensity, and uncompromising individuality. Yet unlike many of their contemporaries, Davis rarely spoke at length about Bogart, leaving fans to speculate about what truly existed between 2 stars whose reputations loomed as large as their egos. In later years, however, Davis offered measured reflections that revealed a complex mix of respect, frustration, and emotional distance. Bette Davis never pretended that she and Humphrey Bogart shared an easy camaraderie. "Bogart was not a man who concerned himself with charm," she once reflected. "What you saw was exactly what you got, and that could be both admirable and exhausting." Davis, herself famous for blunt honesty and emotional ferocity, recognized in Bogart a fellow actor who refused to soften his edges for the sake of public approval. Yet similarity did not always breed comfort. Their strong personalities often existed in parallel rather than harmony. Professionally, Davis admired Bogart's discipline and authenticity. "He understood truth on screen," she said. "Bogart never acted a lie. He didn't decorate a moment or polish it for effect. He lived it." In an industry filled with artifice, Davis respected Bogart's refusal to romanticize himself. His performances, often rooted in quiet cynicism and moral fatigue, resonated with her own belief that great acting required emotional risk rather than vanity. Still, Davis acknowledged that Bogart's personal demeanor could be difficult. "He was guarded, deeply so," she observed. Bogart carried his scars inward, and he didn't invite people to inspect them. Unlike stars who cultivated intimacy on set, Bogart maintained a deliberate distance, which Davis interpreted not as arrogance but as self-protection. She understood this instinct well, having spent much of her own career shielding vulnerability behind strength. Davis also noted that Bogart's off-screen insecurities were frequently misunderstood. "People thought his toughness was confidence," she said, "but much of it was armor." She believed his early struggles and late-blooming success shaped a man who never fully trusted the stability of fame. This insight softened her perspective with time, allowing her to reassess earlier judgments with compassion rather than criticism. Despite mutual respect, Davis admitted that they were never close friends. "We didn't socialize, and we didn't confide," she explained. "Our connection lived in the work, not beyond it." In Davis's view, Bogart belonged to a small circle he trusted completely, and she was content to remain outside it. Their relationship was defined less by warmth than by professional acknowledgement, two artists recognizing each other across a distance. In reflecting on Bogart's legacy, Davis was unequivocal. "He left something behind that couldn't be taught," she said, "a sense of truth that actors still chase." Though she never romanticized him, she placed him firmly among the greats, crediting his influence on generations of performers who followed. Bette Davis's silence about Humphrey Bogart was never indifference, it was restraint. When she finally spoke, her words revealed not scandal or sentimentality but clarity. "Bogart was who he was," she concluded. "And in Hollywood, that is the rarest thing of all." Bette Davis's final act was marked by the same quiet dignity and unyielding strength that defined her extraordinary life. She passed away on October 6, 1989, at the American Hospital in Neuilly-sur-Seine, France. She was 81 years old and, fittingly, still deeply connected to the world of cinema to the very end. Davis had been returning home from Spain, where she had made a celebrated appearance at the Donostia San Sebastian International Film Festival, receiving yet another tribute to a career that had reshaped Hollywood itself. Even in her final days, she remained a revered figure, honored by audiences and filmmakers who understood her lasting influence. After her death, Bette Davis was brought back to the place where her legend had been forged, Hollywood. There she was laid to rest beside her beloved mother, Ruth Davis, and her sister, Bobby, a quiet family reunion after a lifetime spent in the glare of fame. Fans from around the world would later visit her grave, drawn not only by her iconic status but by the simple, powerful truth etched into her headstone. The epitaph reads, "She did it the hard way." In those 6 words lies the story of a woman who refused to compromise, who battled studio executives, defied conventional beauty standards, and carved out unforgettable roles through sheer will, discipline, and talent. It is a fitting final line for an actress who never chose the easy path and whose legacy endures precisely because she dared to do it her way, no matter the cost. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.